Do you ever get déjà vu? Because I feel like I'm having déjà vu. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know. The topic of this video feels familiar. Okay, guys, on a more serious note, hello, welcome. Today, we are going to be looking at some of the things we saw in the trailer for Zayne's new myth, Edge of Continuum. Now, because I am going to be talking openly about sex, this video probably won't get monetized. So I've created a Ko-fi link in which you can help me recoup my losses by donating to me or tipping me. So thank you so much to any of you who do. And finally, let's get started with the video. So first of all, I want to show you guys these messages. I sent these messages to my friends on Discord and I was the most annoying person in the world, but I was convinced we were going to see that sacrificial ceremony that was talked about in Master of Fate. So, I actually was in the process of doing a Zayne myth video, and I actually started that weeks ago. I ended up not finishing it, but I did finish the voiceover. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screen record that within my projects folder, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to let you listen to how I came to the theory that for the third myth, we might be seeing the sacrificial ceremony playing out between Zayne and MC properly. So, first of all, I want to show you when I actually recorded these voiceovers. So, you've got a little bit of proof that I'm not making this up. This is my voiceover, and this was created on the 28th of August. So, that is when I did the voiceover. And then my additional little voiceover I did as a supplement was on the 29th, the next day. So I was thinking about this a couple of weeks ago, and this is when I theorized this. So I'm going to go through now and play the video at certain points and show you how my mind was working and where I was going. So, of course, please ignore how messy this looks. This is what the behind the scenes of Cyberspace's Maz workspace looks like. And yeah, you can see that I've got the Jade Emperor in there because my theory initially started off with the Chinese myth of the Jade Emperor and it just exploded from there. So I'm going to play this video now for you and you guys can listen to it and listen to where my thought process was going. And then after we look at this, we will look at the trailer and I will start to do a little bit of theorizing and we'll have a look at what we're seeing in the trailer and what possibly could be going on. So without further ado, past Maz, take it away. This time, they'll be able to complete the full ritual. She will dance for him, lure him from the heavens, sing her song about how much she loves him, and they will consummate their relationship and she will become immortal. Because MC is still untainted and untouched. A pure mortal. And here's something interesting about that untainted and untouched description. It could have a double meaning. First, literally untouched in the physically intimate sense, which many divine transformation rituals require. But second, and perhaps more importantly, spiritually untainted by Astra's influence or corruption. She has been hidden from divine sight, protected by Master of Fate Snow, making her a blank slate for the ritual. Both meanings explain why the ritual would fully succeed this time when it failed before. Now, do you guys remember my very first video? Remember this? It wasn't very popular, so you may not recognize it, but I basically talk about how Zayne and MC have an unusually high drive. So, I think this myth and their history might be the reason for that if I'm somewhat correct here. In the main story, they are completing this ritual over and over again. There are so many memories in which we see them dance and, have a lot of fun intimately. So I feel like that's what's going on there. Now, I also think the song MC sings about how much she loves Zayne was foreshadowed in Forcia's myth when she sang for him there. As a reminder, in Forcia's myth, she danced with the demigod and sang him a song, once again showing us the same pattern. However, just like in Snow's Embrace, where Master of Fate and MC did not complete the ritual, in Tower of Secrets, Forcia and MC don't complete it either. So earlier myths are incomplete versions of the ritual. So it follows the tragic pattern of Zayne and MC never being able to be together. So even if they complete the ritual, I still think they're doomed. Anyway, this is where Moonlit Dream becomes absolutely fascinating. The entire 5-star memory is drowning in moon imagery and Jade symbolism that feels way too intentional to be coincidence. Now, it could just be that they were using these deliberately as symbols, but I'm going to take it a step further and say it's actually foreshadowing a new myth. So, Moonlit Dream starts with MC and Zayne being separated and transported into a different world. They learn how to live there whilst always searching for each other. Zayne is actively seeing patients as a doctor, having gained a reputation as a god of medicine while they were separated. Remember how Snow's Embrace ended with MC searching for Zayne? Well, there's our first parallel. So I think the new myth will begin with MC searching for Zayne in some way, or she will be settled and living in a village somewhere whilst trying to search for him, either as a priestess or an ordinary person. And then she'll remember the ritual, a dance to lure Zayne from the heavens, as she deduces that must be where he is. Alternatively, her village might be suffering, and she's chosen to communicate with the gods, as per how the ritual was explained in Snow's Embrace. The reason I think it might be something along the lines of that is because of the Chinese myth of Shennong, also known as the divine farmer or divine husbandman. He is a legendary figure in Chinese mythology and early Chinese culture. He is considered one of the 3 sovereigns, mythological rulers who taught humanity essential skills for survival. Shennong is revered as a culture hero, agricultural deity, and medicine pioneer. Stories describe his dedication. He supposedly suffered poison multiple times a day while experimenting with plants. This reminded me a lot of Zayne's evil backlash and how he tends to jasmines. He also said to have played a part in the creation of the Guqin, which Master of Fate plays for MC as she dances. And another really interesting point about him is that he is often depicted with ox-like horns. Now, hold on, no, I am not saying he's going to return with an ox head at all. It's the symbolism of the ox that links to Zayne. The main story of Love and Deepspace takes place in 2048. Zayne's birthday is September the 5th and he's 27 years old, meaning he was born in 2021. The 5th of September 2021 would be considered the year of the ox. And get this, in terms of yin and yang, the ox is yang. Now, at the start of Snow's Embrace, yin and yang is referenced. So I don't think this is purely a coincidence. Or it could be and I'm reading too much into it. But anyway, another parallel I want to make to this is in Zayne's immediate disorder memory, he's called Galen. Galen is a real historical figure who shares a lot of similarities with Shennong. Both are pioneers of medicine for their time, and both are seen as foundational figures in medicine. They are influencing generations of their respective cultures. It's just another parallel I wanted to point out because I found it really fascinating. Future Maz here, guys. I've been doing a little bit of additional research and I just wanted to add something to this section. So Galen actually had a very wealthy father, and his father had a dream in which the Greek god of medicine told him to let Galen study medicine. So what I found really interesting about this is we have the Fractal Library Q&A story of the perfect child, and we learn a wealthy individual engineered a perfect child. I think these 2 myths could be related. And just to add on to that, in Snow's Embrace, when Zayne offers to read our palm, he asks us what we would like to learn about. We can learn about our romance, which I believe refers to Dr. Zayne. We can learn about our wisdom, which I believe refers to Foreseer and or Master of Fate. And we can ask about wealth. And wealth was a big question mark for me, but I believe it may relate to this. So I just thought that was really interesting. So I think Zayne possibly won't remember MC in the new myth. He wouldn't dare be selfish enough to risk her life again. So Zayne will descend from heaven or whatever divine realm he's in and fall in love with her all over again. Now let's talk about all of the moon imagery we've been getting with Zayne and MC. In Moonlit Dream, she literally tries to catch the moon's reflection in the water, and Zayne teases her about being like a kitty patting the moon's reflection in the water. When they're having their intimate moment on the boat and MC asks what he's looking at, he simply says the moon while looking at her. And when they can't focus on carving the jade pendant because of their growing desire towards each other, they jokingly blame the moon for their distraction. And remember all the different times Zayne and MC have referenced the moon? There have been a lot, guys. So Zayne is calling the moon beautiful because MC is the moon. Okay, so I know you're probably thinking I've gone mad, but hear me out. There is a Chinese myth pattern where mortals who achieve immortality through forbidden love become celestial bodies, the most famous being Chang'e's, who became the moon goddess. But here's why this makes perfect sense for MC and Zayne's story, in my opinion. Remember that priestess ritual from Snow's Embrace? The boat seat in Moonlit Dream actually feels like a representation of that. MC initiates the seduction, the boat begins rocking, pulling them closer to each other. They consummate their relationship under the moon, and the jade pendant mysteriously completes itself by morning. This is showing us the divine transformation ritual that will probably happen in the myth. Again, if I am correct, which I'm very unlikely to be. So, why the moon specifically? Well, in Chinese mythology, the moon represents yin energy, which is feminine, receptive, and transformative. Immortality, Chang'e lives forever on the moon. Unattainable beauty, visible but unreachable. And cyclical reunion, phases representing meeting and parting. Anyway, just to push this idea more of the moon symbolism with MC, Xavier has moon symbolism with Lumiere, and in some versions of Chang'e's story, she is living on the moon with a jade rabbit. In addition, he could be considered a star symbolically, and MC would be his moon. The moon and the stars. Yin and yang. Raphael is even more compelling. In some Chinese literature, there's a story of a mermaid who weeps pearls whenever she cries, often over a lost lover or separation from humanity. Some versions tie the mermaid's tears to the moon goddess, implying that mermaids mourn under the full moon, creating this kind of poetic connection between the sea and the heavens. And we don't have enough information about Silas and Caleb yet, but I have an early theory that she may either be the sun or the moon for them, but I haven't quite decided. But I think either way, the moon symbolism, if it's not literal, will hold strong throughout everyone's branches. So the moon goddess has yin energy, and whichever love interest she's with is her yang. As I said before, Zayne was born in the year of the ox, making him her yang. Now, why do I think this connects to the Jade Emperor? Let me explain who the Jade Emperor is and why this mythology fits so well. The Jade Emperor is a supreme deity in Chinese mythology, ruling over heaven, earth, and the underworld. He commands the celestial bureaucracy, overseeing the fates of mortals and the conduct of other deities. So, here's what makes the connection compelling for Zayne and MC's relationship. The Jade Emperor has a famous history of forbidding love between immortals and mortals. In the original Weaver Girl and Cowherd myth, it's the Jade Emperor, or sometimes his wife the Queen Mother, who separates the lovers because their love disrupts cosmic order. They literally create the Milky Way to keep them apart, allowing them to meet only once a year where they create a bridge for them to cross. Sometimes the Milky Way is referred to as the Heavenly River. Another parallel with Moonlit Dream and the Dan River in Snow's Embrace. So, what's even more interesting is that the Weaver Girl is a celestial fairy. There is an ox portrayed in the myth who helps the cowherd to meet the Weaver Girl. The ox is actually a fallen star deity or a celestial being who has been banished to Earth. A lot of this myth mirrors Iceborne Warmth. In Iceborne Warmth, Zayne creates a bridge for MC and calls her a fairy. They meet in a spatial anomaly, a place that does not and should not exist and will disappear forever. Furthermore, it's an empty version of Forcia's tower that they get to turn into a home for one night, and they share a single night of passion. When I think about the cowherd and Weaver Girl myth, I now think of Iceborne Warmth because of those similarities. And to be honest, MC might be portrayed as both a celestial fairy and a moon goddess in two separate myths, So I'm not ruling that out either. She may be either of them, she may be none of them, but either way, I think this is so compelling and interesting if the story is going to take us down that route. Now, moving back onto the moon goddess, Hoyi is often cited as her husband, a great archer with a celestial bow and arrow. If that sounds familiar, Zayne and MC's special attacks for the Lincoln Doctor, Medic of the Arctic, and Dawnbreaker is MC using a bow and arrow, so we might be using a divine bow and arrow weapon in the future for our battles. But I actually think the story of Hoyi and Chang'e is so eerily similar to Zayne and MC's. So let's break this one down. Here's one version of their story. Long ago, 10 suns rose into the sky, scorching the earth. The great archer Hoyi shot down 9 of the suns, leaving only one to provide light and warmth. As a reward, the Queen Mother of the West gave him an elixir of immortality. Hoyi loved his wife Chang'e deeply, and didn't want to become immortal without her, so he kept the elixir at home. However, Hoyi's greedy apprentice tried to steal it while he was away. To prevent the theft, Chang'e drank the elixir herself. After drinking it, she became immortal and floated up to the moon, where she resides to this day. Heartbroken, Hoyi placed offerings of her favourite foods and cakes under the moon, hoping to feel close to her. So here's a few parallels we need to talk about. The apprentice immediately reminds me of Carter the Cowardly. Remember, he was terrified of his own death in the main game. And he effectively used his knowledge of the research he and Zayne did at medical school to try and achieve immortality through the rebirth cocoons. And we all know how that's going. Now, going back to Moonlit Dream, Zayne says this. He claims they eloped because his parents didn't approve. I don't think this is fake at all. Zayne and MC often act as if they are married, they're very domestic. Now, throughout Tower of Secrets, we see Astra functions exactly like the Jade Emperor, an all-powerful paternal figure who forbids love, punishes defiance, and demands absolute obedience to maintain cosmic order. Astra forbids the Foreseer from loving MC, just as the Jade Emperor forbids immortal mortal unions. So I think there's some really interesting parallels. We've got the Jade Emperor and Astra, supreme divine authority maintaining cosmic order, forbidden love, both forbid unions that threaten cosmic stability, divine punishment, both punish defiance with separation and suffering, Jade Maidens or MC, mortals who could achieve divinity through divine union, and the rebel sun or Zayne, divine beings who choose love over obedience. When Zayne says they eloped, he's telling the truth. In every timeline, he's the divine son, rebelling against a father god who forbids his love for a mortal woman who threatens cosmic order. And do you guys remember in the main story when we meet the little boy? MC said he looked like Zayne, and we all know the boy is a divine being. It stands to reason that there may actually be a divine family connection there if Astra is indeed some kind of divine father to Zayne. The little boy really reminded me of a little brother telling his older brother Dad would be mad if he didn't return home. Even Bai seems to be some kind of pet to them. So ultimately, Zayne's attempts to save M3 through transformation likely confirmed Astra's worst fear that she was dangerous, justified eternal punishment because they violated the cosmic law, created an unsolvable problem, can't kill her, can't free her, and proves love makes gods irrational. Zayne chose her over cosmic order. This is like the ultimate tragic irony. Every attempt to save MC makes her more of what Astra feared she was. So in a way, Zayne's love doesn't save her, it transforms her into the very anomaly that justifies their eternal separation. Okay guys, Present Maz back in the building. So as you can see, I was convinced that we were going to get a complete version of the sacrificial ceremony. And I noted that in Tower of Secrets and Snow's Embrace, we got versions of that ceremony, but they were incomplete because neither of them consummated their relationship. So I do know that some people theorize in Snow's Embrace the consummation happened after the dance, but personally I don't think it did. I don't think we saw enough evidence that it did. So for me, the two myths we currently had, they were incomplete versions of that sacrificial ceremony. So I was convinced in the third myth we would get the complete version. And it looks like we are. And as I did suspect, it would end in disaster anyway. Zayne and MC are doomed. So it's really exciting to see that happening in the trailer preview. And yeah, without further ado, let's actually watch the trailer together. So this is going to follow my usual reaction style video in which I'm going to watch the trailer with you guys, and then we're going to pause at certain positions and kind of talk about what we're seeing. So let's get started. Okay, guys, so very quickly, I was going to play the trailer and then talk through it, but we'll be here forever and this video is pretty long already. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to talk through some of the things I found really interesting about the trailer. First of all, I fell in love with Zayne all over again. He looks beautiful. This design exceeded all of my expectations, and yeah, he's just beautiful. So good job, Infold, good job. One of the things I want to talk about is the fact that deity is kind of almost said mockingly here. Now, this to me is MC. So, hear my supplication, heal my wounds, and bestow upon me your power. This is MC asking for help. This is where the ceremony comes in. She's, doing the dance, singing her song, consummating the relationship, and then getting what she needs from Zayne. So, it's the start of that, and I don't know, there's something quite mocking about that, another deity of Nyava, like, there's something fake about it as well, like, not a real deity. I don't know. I'm really curious about that, though. I want to know where that comes from and why it's said like that. So that was the first interesting thing that stood out to me. Now, the next thing that really stood out to me was this. Will you swear in Nyava's name to exchange with me even though we stand on opposing sides? So immediately I was like, okay, so perhaps MC is asking for something that the god of annihilation cannot give her, or it would go against his nature as the god of annihilation. And that sort of fits in with the theme of Zayne going against his actual nature for MC. So I think that's really interesting. And even if they were on opposing sides, they're always going to fall in love with each other. There's always going to be that attraction. It doesn't matter who they are, where they are, or, if they're the deepest enemies, they are going to have that attraction and they are inevitably going to fall in love. So I think that's really interesting. Now, I'm a sucker for enemies to lovers stories, so part of me kind of hopes it's something like that, but I think it's more the fact that she needs him as a healer, but he is a destroyer in this, and I just love that. I love seeing Zayne as an annihilator rather than a healer, so I genuinely cannot wait to see him take on that role. So another thing, we have a new item in the Love and Deepspace universe, the Destiny Stone. So when I was writing my theory for what I thought the third myth could be, one of the things I couldn't answer was, how did MC and Zayne become so intrinsically tied together? What was effectively the starting point of that? How did that happen? Now, I theorized very early on that it could have been Master of Fate who tied their fates together, but I ended up leaving that out of the video, as you saw, because I couldn't figure out a way to make that work beyond the snow that won't melt and, the protective seal and everything. I just couldn't figure it out and it didn't seem strong enough. So with this Destiny Stone and with them saying, from this moment forth, our fate shall never part, this is them effectively marrying each other for all of eternity. This, guys, is a wedding. So just think about that for a second. They meet, fall in love, consummate their relationship, get married. Oh, I've done that the wrong way around, but meet, fall in love, get married, consummate their relationship. So I feel like that's kind of like speed running a relationship, but it explains a lot about why Zayne and MC feel like husband and wife a lot of the time. They really feel very domestic and like, they are a married couple. So it's interesting we've got, this Destiny Stone coming in and effectively it's almost like writing their name in a wedding register, you know? So yeah, that's the kind of the way I saw it. One of the other things I really love about this is they're choosing this. They're choosing to be together. And I think that's incredibly powerful when they're on two opposing sides and they're choosing, you know, to spend all of eternity together in any form, in any universe. They're doing that. So I think that's really beautiful. And I think that's the most powerful way for them to intertwine their fates together. So I really loved that. Now, I know you guys are all going to be wondering about the sex. So, in terms of the sex side of things, I wasn't really that surprised. I mean, I was surprised that that is the way that the sacrificial ceremony ritual was going to go. I was like, oh, okay, really going for it. But in terms of how Zane was acting, this is how we have actually seen him, you know, that loss of control, but not in a way that harms MC. It's that taking what he wants and knowing MC wants it too. So he will take charge, he will take control, she can follow his lead. So yeah, that that was great to see. And hi guys, Future Maz here. Sorry, I'm editing the video right now and I forgot to point something out. From now on, I shall ensure your every wish comes true. Again, we've got that theme of wishes, and I talk about this in my Iceborne Warmth video. So again, we're seeing Zane wanting to give her everything she needs. And yeah, it's just going all the way back to that, and I just thought that was a really cool connection to make as well. So sorry about that. I just wanted to point that out. Anyway, back to the original voiceover. You know, surprisingly enough, the more I was thinking about this, the more that the sex wasn't the most interesting thing to me, because I was like, yeah, that's Zane and MC through and through. This is just part of that ceremony that needs to happen. Now, another thing I want to talk about is I talk a lot about Astra, the little boy that we meet in the main story, and Zane all having some kind of familial tie to one another. And at one point, I did think, are they consummating their relationship so that MC can bear a child? And then I realized she dies at the end of this. So, no, unless her consciousness can travel and impregnate another body of hers. I don't know. I don't think so, guys. But yeah, I kind of yeeted that out of my head quite quickly. But yeah, I don't think there needs to be any reason other than it is part of this ceremony, essentially. It is part of creating that bond with each other. So yeah, I don't have a lot to say about that. And obviously, yes, the BDSM implications, you know, I did think when I saw Zane with the string or the rope here, if I can get it up.
Our names will be carved together.
Yeah, just here with the rope. I think that immediately made me think of when you poke him too much in the home screen and he says, if your hands won't stop being mischievous, I'll show you how surgeons tie knots. Immediately made me think of that. And yeah, I'm not surprised that we've got Zane with a rope here and a string. But more to the point, I also had another thought. Like, this looks like the string of fate or something. Like, he is tying them together through this act, you know? So I thought it was super interesting beyond just that obvious BDSM element. Now, another thing I want to talk about is this. So, we've got the moon and I think the sun. So that ties back to what I theorized about seeing the sun and the moon, yin and yang. And again, we've got yin and yang because Zane is in white and MC is in black. So again, we've got that yin and yang. They are perfectly suited and aligned and harmonious together. They are, yeah, yin and yang. So I thought that was really cool and I was really like excited to see this. One other thing to note is the birds. And I remember there were birds in Iceborne Warmth when we were dancing with Zane. And that was a callback to Forcia's myth, where when they were dancing, there were birds, I think, flying around them as well. So I think that's what the bird imagery is. I could be wrong, but it immediately made me think of that. So yeah, there's a lot of details and a lot going on. So I thought that was super interesting. And obviously, the the celestial bow and arrow. I'm really happy we saw that. Now, another thing I want to quickly talk about is, let me see if I can find it.
What shouldn't exist?
Obliteration ordained by fate.
Cannot be defied.
Heed the decree of two gods.
What shouldn't exist ought to crumble in Oblivion's hands.
Sins and transgressions.
There we go. So,
Sins and transgressions.
I'm just going to mute that. Sorry, guys. So, let's try and get a better screenshot of that. Here we go. So, this reminded me of the main story where Zayne hurts MC, and MC has that vision where she sees Zayne walking towards her and he has black evil on his eyes. And that immediately reminded me of it. Also, the fact that he's covering MC's eyes as well. And one of the other things I love is it's MC who takes the blindfold off. Look at that. It's MC who does it. It's not Zayne. This is MC. So I was like, that's so perfect. And like, it goes back to that perfect alignment with each other. They are perfect partners here. And, you know, I'll think of something more deeper when my brain can think about it. But I did notice that. And I was like, yes, 100%. Also, obviously, guys, I'm not gonna lie, I did see the BDSM imagery as well, and I thought, you know, maybe this is alluding to Zayne's kinks and, you know, his preferences in bed. I think that's quite interesting, but no. Beyond that, we're definitely looking at that black ice evil situation and, you know, seeing the truth of things. So I thought that was really interesting. Another thing that I noticed, this badge here, these look like lightning strikes. And the reason that stood out to me is because we learned that MC has astrophobia. So, for those of you that don't know, astrophobia is the fear of lightning, I believe, thunder and lightning or lightning. It's one of those. And MC has that. And of course, people have made the connection. Astrophobia is what it's called. And Astra is a god in the game. And we find this out in Caleb's Bond story. And we also see Astra on a toaster in one of Caleb's memories. So yeah, there's a lot going on there. I just thought that was really interesting. I know it is a little more than likely the sun, but I just thought for Zayne's myth, it's interesting. We've kind of got that lightning symbolism there. So yeah, so interesting. I cannot wait to dive into this, guys. I'm so excited. Now, let's move on into the next part of the story, and I do have a little bit to say about this next part here.
My power has been nearly depleted. I should send you away from here now.
Give me your hand.
You actually gave all your power to me. Don't leave me before the snow stops. I'll wait for our reunion.
Okay, guys, give me a second to pick myself back up because that was so sad. Anyway, there's a lot to talk about with this section as well. So, one of the first things I want to point out is once again we have the moon and the sun. And what I love is this transition. Look at this transition between these two places. Look at that. I love that. And what I love about that is we go from what seems like, a very ordinary city into something that is destroyed under snow. And then there's like a winter sun almost. So this is very, typical imagery we would see with Zane's stories. We've always got that last sunset. We've always got that never ending winter. Always reminds me of Dawnbreaker, and I get very sad about it. But yeah, I really love that we've got that in here. So it's almost like everything is being destroyed. And with Zayne being the god of annihilation, I know it's got something to do with that. And another thing is, I'm really surprised we got, um, where is it? I'm really surprised we got this scene here. So immediately, first of all, I thought we would get this with Silas's myth. I didn't think we'd get it with Zayne. Both of them are falling literally from like godhood. This is Zayne leaving his role as a deity and choosing MC and choosing MC's life. And I think that's symbolic and very clear what that's meant to, mean. So yeah, I really loved this. And I was surprised we saw it in Zayne's myth, but I adore it. And everything is crumbling around them. So yeah, one of the other things I want to point out is I did notice where Zayne was placing this. The sun is in the center. The sun is in the center, so he's trying to send her to a better place, quite literally. So it's so interesting. And, the fact that everything is falling apart around them, we're not surprised about that because with Zayne and MC, they are doomed. So, like I said in my theory video, I think even though they completed the ritual this time, they're still doomed. They can't be together. And as the god of annihilation, everything around him is being destroyed. And even if Zayne wanted to go against his own power and everything like that, I don't think he can. And yeah, I just can't wait to find out how this is all going to go down. And obviously, with Zayne saying he doesn't have much power left within him and MC deciding to give him that was really interesting. And it sort of reminded me of Hoi and Chonga's myth. So, if you think about it, we have the ritual, and I thought it would be MC asking for immortality. And even if she did ask for that, in the end, she gave it back to Zayne. So I don't think that's what happened here. I don't know why she needed Zayne's help, but I think the fact that she gave her his power at the end to save him is really interesting because it did remind me of the elixir myth. So I'm going to give you my immortality, I'm going to give you my life and have you live. It's the ultimate act of love. It's once again the most selfless thing MC could do, and MC and Zayne are very selfless, and of course they would do it. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting because it's almost like a retelling of that Chinese myth. So yeah, I don't know. For me, it was that, but it's so interesting. I'm just so curious to know why everything around them is being destroyed, what happened, and all of this imagery and iconography. Look at this. Like, this is phenomenal. This is beautiful. But yeah, one of the other things about this that I noticed is it looks like an eye. So we've literally got the eye in the center, and it immediately reminded me of Astra, an Astra's eye. So it's interesting because the sun is in the middle of it, but it's the sun with, the lightning rod style marks. So I was like, interesting. But yeah, in fact, if I just want to do a little mini analysis, it's almost like the center is like destroyed, but everything around it is perfectly stable. But then we've got that half cut there. So it means there's a half of it missing. Something is incomplete here. So yeah, it's just super interesting. But yeah, I immediately saw the eye. One final thing to make you all sad. I'm not sure if any of you noticed, but does this dome look familiar? Does it look familiar, guys? Because it looked familiar to me. It immediately reminded me of Zayne's last birthday and of Zayne and MC playing in the snow globe and being all lovey-dovey in the snow globe. And what do we have here? A very similar dome, and MC is dying. So Infold Writers did it again. So thank you for that, Infold. phenomenal job. Great job at the angst, by the way. I love it. But yeah, I just wanted to leave you with that one final thing and say, have a good one, guys. No, but seriously, yeah. Guys, I cannot wait. There is so much about this that I want to know. And also, sorry, I keep saying this, but one final thing is the fact that MC turns into ice, essentially, reminded me of the ice jasmines. It reminded me of the jasmine that Forcia encased in ice. It reminded me of all of that. So MC is the jasmine encased in ice, essentially. So yeah, I think symbolically, that's another way of looking at the jasmines and ice and everything like that. And yeah, guys, there's just so much going on. So I'm gonna leave it there because I could go on, and I want to wait to actually play the myth and then see how I feel about it and see how I interpret and analyze the events of it. Of course, you might have different interpretations and analyses of the trailer. I want to hear them all. I want to know what you guys think. Now, obviously, I haven't done a lot of research, so this is all off the top of my head and what I can remember about the game and everything, but yeah. Anyway, I'm super excited. If you guys are pulling for this, I hope you get him within the first 10 pulls, and I hope you have a fantastic time crying at his myth. I know I am. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and yeah, as always, have a beautiful time zone, and as always, stay frosty.